Welcome to the Live It Right podcast, hosted by John and Caitlin Lindsay. We're going to be talking all things health and wellness, from food, fitness, relationships. So if you want to live your best life and live it right, join us for this conversation.
So whether you're a health enthusiast, a busy professional, or someone looking to achieve a more fulfilling life, you're in the right place. Tune in, subscribe, and join our community as we explore the path to living it right.
Let's go. Welcome back to the Live It Right podcast, episode 8, and we're calling this the travel show. We're about to go on an awesome trip. We're going to touch on that a little bit, but we're going to talk about how to travel stress-free, and then also one thing that just makes traveling an epic time for us.
So kicking things off is the number one rule we both believe in making trips stress-free is having it paid for before you leave. And we'll elaborate on that a little bit.
And that means accommodations, airfare, budget accordingly so you know like what you might spend daily and literally have all that money already saved. So you're not on day 5 of a trip checking your credit card app and you're like, holy crap, I'm spending way more money than I thought I was going to. That in the past, that always hinders a trip when you're kind of deep into it and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm spending way more money than I thought I was going to. And then you have that post-trip hangover. If you've got the money set aside, it just makes it so much more relaxing. You don't feel bad indulging a little bit more. You don't feel bad spending a little bit on this and that.
So I'm going to rewind just a little bit. Since we've been together, we gave gifts to each other for 1 year. So it was like birthday and Christmas 1 year.
And we've been together 8 years.
Yeah. And then so after that, we just got into a conversation and decided that in lieu of gifting each other things, we were going to put money into a travel fund. And it started at one amount and has increased over time. So
with inflation.
Yeah. So birthday, Christmas, anniversary, Valentine's Day. We don't celebrate it, but we still dump a little bit of money in there.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into our little sports gambling that we do. But basically what I was going to say is, he kind of kicked things off, but the point of this is like, so we leave on Friday and we have flights, accommodations, bike rentals, all done. So the larger, more expensive pieces of our vacation are paid for. So we know going into this, we have X number of dollars to spend.
Divided by days we're there.
Yeah.
We know how much we have to spend, and it's more than likely we'll come home with money.
That's the goal.
Yeah. But we did this so I guess I'll back up a little bit. So our first year relationship, we did give gifts for at least birthday, Christmas, one round. And then we were like, maybe we realized we both sucked at gift giving or something. But, I think we both realized we like to travel. This is perfect. Let's just set money aside.
And our love language is not material gifts. So
And so a big help was I went to my bank, opened a new bank account, totally free. You just have to have like maybe $500 in there and it's a totally free thing. And so I have this separate bank account that anytime we give money to one another, we put it in there. So it's totally out of sight, out of mind. And we just let it build as we add stuff to it. So it's not like I got you X amount of money for your birthday, but it's still just sitting in someone's checking account or whatever. It's
in that travel
fund.
It's
set aside and we watch it build. And
which is really fun to watch.
It is. And then when we're comfortable to take a trip, we take a trip. The first few years we started it, we would just save for 1 year.
Right.
And that's wonderful. It always would pay for our accommodations, flights, and maybe a tiny bit of walking around money. But I guess this was probably a product of COVID because we couldn't really travel. Mm-hmm. We sort of unintentionally saved for 2 years.
That was also our honeymoon too. So we really wanted to blow it out.
Yeah.
But that just, we loved it so much. We
were able to go for a longer period of time, 3 weeks.
And we came back home with money.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is like for the first time, literally ever, I don't think either one of us even remotely thought about money at all on the trip. I think we went to multiple locations. So at each location we would check the account and be like, okay, so what do we have left? Have we like overspent in this location?
What are we averaging?
Yeah. But we do not like, there's no pressure and there's no weight on our shoulders of like, oh my gosh, we're getting to, we're spending too much. Like and it gives this sort of like freedom. It just alleviates and just provides this freedom that was really wonderful to really just separate from everything, decompress, and like not have to worry about the one thing you don't want to worry about on vacation.
Yeah.
Is money.
Especially if you're working a career where if you're not there, you're not making money or as much money. Like that just adds to the stress. Like it's, you get to the second to last day of the trip, it's reality starting to settle in. Where you're like, oh my gosh, I've spent so much money. When I get back, I'm going to have to work for X number of weeks to make up for this, whatever it is.
It's like not the Sunday scaries, it's the travel scaries.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah, after doing the 1 year thing for probably 4 years, maybe 3, we sort of unintentionally saved for 2 years. And when we did that 2 years ago, we were like, oh my gosh, this is what we're doing from now on. So yeah, we saved for the last 2 years, and now we're ready for an epic trip. And yeah, as Caitlin sort of alluded to, we have set amounts we give for the birthdays, the Christmas, the anniversaries, maybe Valentine's Day sometimes. So those are the biggest things, but we also are both big sports fans. So we do gambling during college football, the Super Bowl, NFL playoffs, March Madness. We
did the big brackets. We did baseball this year.
We did college baseball. Anything we can kind of find to bet. And it's not a ton of money, but you do it. You do all these little things over the course of a year, and then you do it for 2 years. It really adds up. So tonight we're going to actually do college football is about to kick off. So we do some bets on a weekly basis, but we also have a year-long thing. And because the college football playoff is starting this year, 12 teams make the playoffs. We're each going to draft 10 teams, probably do snake draft style. And if your team makes the playoffs, your opponent has to pay some amount. We haven't settled on what that is yet, but it's just a fun way to add to that fund. And even if you are the loser, it's going to a good place. So.
Oh yeah, because we got to the point. I think it was with it was March Madness. It was $5 a game, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have as many teams you start out with, the funny thing is when you go to Europe, well, it wasn't even $5. It was like, hey, it's 2 espresso. Hey, it's 2 cappuccino. Think about it. When you think of it that way, it's like,
what's the conversion rate? It's a half bottle of wine.
Yeah. House wine. Yeah. But it really has. I get every single time we go on vacation, I get messages. How in the world can y'all afford to do X, Y, and Z? How could, and so I guess, just a couple little things that to share publicly. Number one, and let's preface this by saying no judgment to how you travel. This is just what we do, the way we kind of map things out. The number one thing that I think people may not understand or misconstrue, we do not spend a fortune on our accommodations at all.
No.
It's the priorities are location, outdoor space, somewhere we can sit, and
a washer.
Yeah, washing machine.
And dryer.
And then most of the time to have some sort of kitchenette at least, because we don't always eat out 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
But I think that's where that's honestly compared to the majority where we probably save a chunk of our money.
Yeah.
And then when we fine dine, we also balance that out with we're going to go in a grocery store and grab a few things and make super easy breakfast, or we're going to run into this butcher shop and grab fresh bread, meat, and cheese and make a sandwich and sit on the by the water.
Yeah.
So, that's where I I understand not everyone wants to do that, but that is where we save a chunk of money. So, just because we often get that question, but I guess just to, did you want to touch on anything else with that?
Well, another thing is accommodations made me think of this. So when you're saving over the course of 2 years or however long of a time frame would be appropriate for you, ideally you also have some sort of advantageous credit card, airline flights, accommodation. So we do utilize that too, but that's part of the savings over 2 years.
We don't cash in credit card points.
Yeah, the credit card points
on
are all
regular. Yeah.
are all for the trip as well. And over the course of 2 years, that could be pretty sweet.
So did we pay anything for our flights?
No. So our flights were through credit card points.
The flights were credit card points. The accommodations we've split. Shout out to my old job from 8 years ago. Still winning by having Marriott points. So cashed in some of those, still not all of them, for 2 of the 5 locations.
Yep.
So that's another thing that we use. We don't often opt for hotels, but we're doing it on the front and the back end just for convenience. And then...
Well, I guess another part of, speaking of flights, accommodation, so because this trip has been sort of 2 years in the making for the last, probably, I don't know when we booked flights, but we probably looked at flights for sort of casually for a 6-month period leading up to nothing crazy, but you just you look at flights, you kind of become aware of, all right, where are the affordable places to fly into Europe? And you just kind of know. And so that helps a lot. Like if you're kind of waiting until the last minute and you're like, well, I've got to fly in there. And come to find out, if you would have flown in somewhere, let's say you're going, let's just say where we're going. We're flying into Zurich, Switzerland.
Yep.
And then we're training to Innsbruck, Austria. Then we're taking a train down to Lake Garda in Italy, and then we're training to Lake Iseo in Italy as well, and then we're flying out of Venice. And so we knew we kind of wanted to be in that area in some capacity, the Alps, Dolomites.
And we knew we wanted to do an in and out in 2 different locations rather than
a loop.
A loop. But I think... So basically what he's saying, and one thing that we've always, I think, been good about is we did not pick the destination based on what we wanted. We picked the destination based on what the conversion rate is, what, for currency, what flight deal we could get. I mean, it's never...
Yeah, it was really based around the flight. We knew so we wanted to be sort of in that area. So we were looking at other major places to fly in and out of: Milan, Nice.
We thought about France,
Geneva, Bern, Switzerland, some other places in Vienna, Austria, and this Zurich and Venice. Just the flight prices were so sweet that we booked those first, and then we sort of mapped, and we knew we wanted to go to Innsbruck, Austria. We knew we wanted to go to at least one of the Italian lakes.
And the other thing we do keep in mind as well is, which I know a lot of people can get caught up in, and a lot of questions I've actually gotten lately about this trip is making sure that you're not stretching yourself thin. I know a lot of people try and pack too much into, they'll want to go from the northern part of Italy to the southern part of Italy. And the good thing that is we find a nice balance of giving ourselves enough time in each location to soak it up. So that was another thing, is we wanted to make sure that we didn't stretch ourselves too thin when we chose not just the in and out, but how many stops we'd make along the way, but also making sure that we wouldn't regret that we didn't hit somewhere else too.
Yeah. I think it's so nice to feel settled in a place.
So a minimum, I think we would never do less than 3 nights. In a place.
Sure, yeah. And typically that's where you're flying in and out of.
Yeah.
Saving money for a trip, I can't stress it enough how awesome it feels knowing you're not putting yourself in debt, or you're not going to feel like you're not going to have that vacation hangover. It's so awesome to save for the trip. It makes it more fun. It's, if it takes you longer to go on that trip, that's okay, because you're going to subtly do more research and find more affordable flights. You're going to find cooler places. It's nothing wrong with taking a little more time to
Yeah, and I
Make
think
it happen.
the last thing to mention for anyone that's self-employed, especially in the service-based industry such as myself, it is those first few trips that we took are very rooted in anxiety, to be very honest. As much as I hate to even admit that like I was anxious while I was gone, just like you mentioned at the beginning, I'm not going to make, like, I'm not offering anything but physical in service right now in my business. I won't make a dime while we're gone. So not knowing that this is paid for and not a dime is coming out of the account while we're gone makes me feel so much better that I don't have to scramble when I get home. So especially for those of you that are self-employed, especially in the service-based industry, when you are basically like hard cutting off income, it is a really, really, really good stress reliever and really allows you to truly disengage, which is the point of vacation, right?
Totally.
So I guess that, unless you have anything else to add there, we can kind of walk into the next part that we said we were going to.
I would just, quick summary.
Yeah.
Save your money, find fun ways to do it. Something we didn't mention, we'll play card games, dominoes, chess. We'll bet $5-10 on it here and there. Do that over 2 years. Little things like that add up as well. Have a travel advantageous credit card. Actually pay it off.
Have the account.
Have the account. It's so easy. I'm sure any bank could easily add another savings account to it. And that way you're holding yourself and your spouse or whoever else you want to travel with accountable to be like, all right, it's my birthday. Give me that money so I can put it in the account and you can see it grow.
And then the last one is we set ourselves a goal to at least come back with a certain amount of money so that we have the next trip. There's already a baseline. It's not like there's $5 in the account.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
But you wanted us to touch on one thing that makes a vacation truly epic. I'm gonna let you go first.
For me, this could be for an extravagant 3-week-long trip, or it could be just an overnight trip or just a day trip, is some sort of memorable physical activity. And I'm actually going to give an example of a non-extravagant trip we did. It was my birthday. I think I turned 34. We went down to Jacksonville Beach.
Oh, yeah, that was last year.
Yep. So we went down there. Again, no gifts were given. We just drove down from Savannah to Jax Beach outside of Jacksonville. And we took our bikes, and the goal was to ride 100 miles down Highway A1A. So it'd go 50 miles down, 50 miles back. And neither of us were in the cycling shape we are now. This was over a year and a half ago. And it was my birthday, so I got to pick what we did. And the way down was so easy. We zipped down. We had a tailwind, so, incredibly easy. And then we started heading back. We stopped, I think, mile 70-ish and had lunch, had a pizza.
It was already raining by then.
Yeah, and then it started raining. And probably about 10 miles after that, I literally started to crack. Like, I didn't say anything, but I was, like, almost in my mind begging for a storm. So we had to literally be like, well, we got to call an Uber because it's storming and dangerous.
Mind you, this is, like, the only time I've ever remembered John like wanting to quit.
I didn't say anything at the time.
I know.
And
I know. He didn't tell me this until way later.
No. I think after we got done, but yeah, you didn't say anything. And then come to find out at the end, we finally got done it. And I got a second win. There was probably like a 10-mile period where I was just like dragging ass and like looking for the thunder or lightning to happen. But when we were about 10 miles out, then regardless of the situation, you can see the finish line, so it's fine. But yeah, when we got back, I think you were like, yeah, I couldn't say anything because it's your birthday. So I think we were both like on the verge of cracking, but I'll always remember that ride. It was, I think we just went and had a nice sushi dinner afterwards, but it was just awesome. It was just fun and fun to get it done. And that's something I'll always remember. And it was just an easy, like, in and out overnight trip. And there's tons of examples on cooler trips we've been, but I wanted to give that example because I think it showcases that, for me at least, just having a memorable physical activity within a trip makes it awesome to me.
Well, it's funny, just to add to that, for anyone that's familiar with A1A in Florida, like, it's flat. It's supposed to be.
On the surface, it sounds easy.
Yeah, but it wasn't just rain. It was like wet sand. Whoever was
And it was a headwind.
Yeah,
we had
but
a tailwind.
whoever was behind the other, I was like eating wet sand. It was just,
Oh,
it
and
was an experience.
my birthday's in January, so
Yeah.
it was winter, which, I mean, not crazy in the South, but still
Yeah.
wet and cold, not a good combo.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny you say that because mine is basically the same thing from a food perspective. Like always having, I just have this deep passion to truly bring joy to the table again because I feel like memories are made around a table. So many of my favorite memories with you are meals, whether it's the 7-course meal I make for our anniversary, but like something that makes every experience is food wise. I mean, like, for example, like I'll never forget my first bite of Local Lion Donuts in Boone. Like after we crushed a hard ride.
Yeah, definitely.
Or
they go
also
hand in
before.
hand.
So they do really go hand in hand. It's, I've been looking out.
Good food tastes better after a hard effort of something.
Oh yeah. And it's like, we booked, we don't fine dine often, but like I'm so excited. We booked a Michelin restaurant last night for our trip. And we don't dine like that. We cook at home 99% of the time. So it's like, but I know that will be memorable. One of my most memorable, I mean, it's something weird, but we were in Lisbon dining and they didn't use napkins. They cut off men's Oxford shirts and would give you a sleeve and you just wipe your face with it, which I loved.
Yeah, that was cool.
But like little things, same thing from a food perspective is just having epic memories, whether it is a hole in the wall coffee shop or getting to splurge and dine at a Michelin rated restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So-
food always tastes better when you've done something. It could be...
I feel like it's worth, like you earned it.
Yeah,
when
even
you
if it's
earn
just
it.
even if you put in like 20K steps that day, like
Oh, yeah.
20,000 steps, like it just feels...
That pizza always tasted better when it
totally.
was after, getting lost.
Yes, exactly. Or getting
So-
shut down at the restaurant you were supposed to go to.
Yeah. But I mean, also, I guess just to wrap things up, like it truly makes every single time that we go away epic when we don't have the burden or the stress or the pressure of anything financial
Yeah,
either.
totally.
So we hope that encouraged you to maybe do the same.
Yeah, it's whether you're a solo traveler, you're with your spouse, or you're even with a family. I think creating that separate account and saving the money, because then now you've made it real, and you're like, okay, we're putting money in here.
Yep.
It's going to build to something. You're not just talking the talk. You're now walking the walk and building that, and it's awesome, and it builds faster than you think.
Yeah, and you earn, you feel good after that physical activity. You earned that meal. You earned that trip.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see that grow and then get to use it. So,
Yeah. So we're leaving this Friday. We're as Zurich, Innsbruck, Lake Garda, Lake Aseo, flying out of Venice. We're gonna try to do recap episodes
For
of
each
each
location.
place we stayed at. Kind of obviously the physical activity we did, obviously what we ate as well, and maybe just some good insights on active couples traveling to those places. So we've got a fair amount of cycling planned in Innsbruck, Garda, Aseo. I'm sure lots of eating planned in all those places as well. So
and then I guess the last thing we'll share is make sure that you follow along. He will be sharing each day that we're gone. We're going to be sharing, we've challenged ourselves. He'll be sharing how to stay active.
the activity we did.
Yep, the activity. And I will be recapping everything we eat for the full 3
That
weeks.
might be more fun.
But make sure you tune in. Thanks for listening to this. We hope that we encouraged you. And we will see you on the other side of the ocean.
Yes. And the episodes, one last thing,
yeah.
might come out sort of sporadically.
Yeah.
Just because
The timeline.
But we're going to try to get them out soon after visiting each place.
Yeah.
So,
We'll see you guys later.
ciao.
Thanks. Like that.